Hello friends, today you will listen the story of Radha, Gopis and the monster Vatsasur. One day, Nanda, the chief of the cowherds, received an invitation from Rishabh Bhanu to visit his family. Nanda, along with his wife Yashoda and Lord Krishna, went to visit them. Vrishabhanu had been King Suchandra in his previous life. As a king, Rishabhanu and his wife Kalavati had received a boon from Lord Brahma that a daughter named Radha would be born to them in another life. Radha was the incarnation of goddess Lakshmi herself. Her fair skin shone with inner radiance. She had long black hair and beautiful doe-shaped eyes. When Lord Krishna saw the gentle and sweet Radha, he felt instant affection for her. Will you be my friend? Lord Krishna asked charming Radha. I was hoping you would ask me that, Radha smilingly said. Thus, a deep bond of friendship and affection formed between the two children. Lord Krishna grew more attached to Radha as he became older. As Lord Krishna grew older, he remained very close to Radha. All the gopis who gathered around him and played with him complained, he is playing, talking to Radha. Why doesn't he talk to us all the time instead? A gopi sighed and said, I would give anything to be Radha. As much as he liked Radha, Lord Krishna was also jealous of her fair face. One day, he applied color on her face as a mark of protest. Radha laughingly put color on Lord Krishna's face too. The gopis laughed with delight at this. Lord Krishna said, You are laughing, so I must put color on you too. Thus, he put color on the faces of some of the protesting yet amused gopis. Soon, all the children started putting color on one another's face. This was the initiation of the Indian festival of Holi in Vrindavan, in which people play with colors. One day, when the gopis were bathing in the river, Lord Krishna crept up quietly on the banks of the river and stole their clothes. He then climbed up a nearby tree and placed a heap of clothes on a high branch. The gopis had been too busy to notice Krishna, so they did not suspect anything. They prepared to come out, though they were shocked to see their clothes missing. It was only when they heard Krishna laughing that they realized what had actually happened. Please give our clothes back, Krishna, they pleaded from inside the water. I will return your clothes if you all fold your hands and raise them above your heads in total surrender. Krishna said. Though very reluctant and highly embarrassed, the gopis finally agreed and did as they were told. They immediately got their clothes back. In reality, Krishna was freeing the gopis of their ego and teaching them to surrender themselves in front of the Supreme. As they grew older, Nanda decided to give Lord Krishna and Balarama some responsibilities. In their village, young cowherds were given the responsibility of taking care of calves. So Nanda gave the two brothers charge of the cows. You must take care that the little calves are well fed and remain safe at all times, instructed Nanda. Thus, Along with the other young cowherds, Lord Krishna and Balrama started taking care of the cows. They took them to the pastures every morning and returned home every evening. When they went out for cattle grazing in the pastures, Krishna often played the flute. They also ate amalaki and bell fruits. Often to amuse themselves, they mimicked the sounds of cows and bulls and even other animals and birds. However, the danger would soon come to the two brothers and the cowherds. They feared nothing, for Lord Krishna was with them. Once, a demon named Vatsa was encouraged by evil Kansa to attack Lord Krishna. Who can withstand my power? If I kill Lord Krishna, the demon world will sing my praises, thundered Vatsasura. Thus he went to Vrindavan and observed Lord Krishna's activities carefully. I can easily trick this boy and his brother by turning into a calf and slipping into their flock. They will not notice me and I will be able to attack them with ease, he plotted. While their cattle grazed, Lord Krishna and Balrama played on the banks of river Yamuna. Demon Vatsa quickly changed from his monstrous form into a small innocent looking calf. Then he mingled with the other calves so that he might escape being caught by the two brothers. However, Lord Krishna was the eighth incarnation of Lord Vishnu. He sensed something was wrong at once. He stopped playing with Balrama and motioned his elder brother to follow him behind a tree. Good morning, friends. Today you will listen the story of Vatsasur and Bakasur. Brother, don't look now, but there is an evil demon in our herd that has changed himself into a calf. But we can catch him if we are clever, Lord Krishna said to Balrama. Both of them planned a simple course of action to catch the cunning demon. Then the brothers sneaked up on the calf, who was Vatsasur in disguise. Soon they both surrounded him so quietly that the demon was unaware of them. Even as Balrama watched, Lord Krishna quickly caught hold of the demon calf's legs and tail and started whipping him around forcefully. Then he threw him up in the air. The demon calf fell from the impact onto the ground and died. Vatsasura's clever ruse to disguise himself as a calf and trick Lord Krishna had failed, as he was no match for Lord Krishna. Balrama and all the other cowherds cheered happily to see the death of the evil demon. One day, a friend of evil Kansa, Baka, an evil demon, decided to attack Lord Krishna. He took the form of a massive creature and reached Vrindavan. There, all the cowherds were drinking water from the banks of the river Yamuna, as their calves were being watered. Just then they saw Bakasura, a crane-like animal, which was as big as a hill. Krishna, what will we do now? Cried the cowherds. Lord Krishna said, Be calm. This evil demon will meet with his end at my hands. All except Lord Krishna stepped aside. Bakasura ran in his crane-like form with his massive talons and sharp beak towards Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna stood calmly and fearlessly as the demon edged closer. To the cowherd's horror, evil Bakasura opened his beak and swallowed Lord Krishna. Krishna, how could this happen? Who will save us now? The cowherds cried in sorrow. As Lord Krishna entered Bakasura's throat, Bakasura felt pain and fiery sensation. He struggled to breathe. As everyone watched in awe, Krishna opened the beaks of Bakasura and ripped him apart. The cowherds cheered and Balrama cried in joy. My brother is safe. Praised to be the heavens. However, Bakasura gathered the little strength he had left and attacked Lord Krishna again using his sharp beak and razor-like talons. Lord Krishna caught hold of the beak and broke it into two. Then he killed Bakasura so effortlessly that the onlookers were amazed. This incident clearly proved that even a demon of such massive size was no match for Lord Krishna. He could destroy such evil monsters with a mere flick of his finger. Soon, word spread among the demons that the Lord himself was born on earth to destroy evil. When Lord Krishna killed evil demon Baka, flower petals were showered on him from the skies. As the gods celebrated the death of a monstrous entity. To signal the victory of good over evil, shankhas, that is conch shells, were blown. The sound of celebratory bugles and drums resounded in the skies. Beautiful melodies sung by the apsaras and nymphs flowered from the heavens in celebration. But the cowherds felt the deepest joy. They all ran to their village praising the Lord. We saw our Lord Krishna kill the evil demon, which was as strong as 1,000 bulls. One of them said. Another one said, the evil demon was very powerful, but he was no match for Lord Krishna. Thus, the men and the women of Vrindavan cheered at yet another triumphant victory of Lord Krishna. However, amidst all these celebrations, Mother Yashoda was worried about the safety of her son. One day, while Lord Krishna and his friends were playing while grazing, their cattle wandered into the deep forest. Soon they started searching everywhere for the cattle but could not find them. Krishna played his magic flute. Usually, the cows came running at the sound of the flute. But that day, they did not come. Rather, they moved from afar. Krishna and his friends followed their sounds and went into the forest. They were shocked to see that the forest was engulfed in a fire and huge flames surrounded the cows. The cowherds cried, Krishna, please help. Krishna consoled, don't be afraid. Close your eyes and do not open them until I say. When his friends obeyed him, Lord Krishna used his yogic power and consumed the fire into his mouth. Then he said to his friends, now open your eyes. When they opened their eyes, there was no fire. They returned home praising Krishna all the way. Have a wonderful morning. Today's story are about Kamadhenu, Sudarshan, Shankachuda, and Brahma. After Lord Krishna had humbled Lord Indra, a divine cow named Kamadhenu came to meet him from Devlok, the abode of the gods. Kamadhenu had divine powers and she could grant any wish. She said to Krishna, "You are protecting all the cows who are my children. To us, you are the Lord of Lords. Brahma has directed us to perform the ceremonial bath of crowning you as our Indra." Saying so, Kamadhenu gave Lord Krishna the coronation bath, pouring the holy waters brought from the heavens and her own milk. Then Kamadhenu said to Krishna, "My lord, from now on you will be lovingly called Govinda. You are Govinda because you protect the cows and also the entire world. Lord Indra is only the Lord of gods, but you are the Indra for all living beings." The whole village rejoiced at this event. Then Kamadhenu took leave of Krishna and returned to Devlok. On the night of Shivratri, the people of Vrindavan were resting in the Ambikavan forest. At midnight, a python slithered up to Nanda and began devouring him. Nanda cried out, "Krishna, this python is swallowing me. Please save me." Hearing this, all the men began beating the python with blazing logs of fire, but it did not release Nanda. Then Lord Krishna touched the python with his foot and the python shed its body. It turned into a handsome divine being and bowed before Lord Krishna. He said, "I am a Vidyadhar, a celestial being who has acquired all knowledge, named Sudarshan. Once I saw some unattractive sages while traveling on my aerial transport. Being proud of my beauty, I ridiculed them. So, a sage named Angira changed me into a python, saying that when Lord Krishna would touch me with his feet, I would regain my original form." Saying so, Sudarshan left while the people of Vrindavan admired Krishna speechlessly. Lord Krishna, Radha, and the gopis would regularly perform the Ras Leela, a joyous dance to lively music. The gopis would form a huge circle and perform Dandiya Ras. They would dance in rhythm, holding small wooden sticks in hands. Radha and Krishna danced in the center, lost in deep love for each other. Radha's love for Krishna was far beyond the mundane and worldly feelings. She had such a close bond with him that they would share thoughts even in periods of physical separation. Radha was Krishna's constant companion and advisor, and stayed with him for over 10 years till he left for Mathura. Such was the love of Krishna for the gopis that he would manifest into multiple forms of himself, so that no gopi might ever feel neglected. Thus, None of the gopis ever felt jealous or envious of Radha, for each gopi had a Krishna all to herself. One night, Lord Krishna and Balrama went to their favorite spot on the banks of the Yamuna. While Krishna played the flute, his friends, the gopis, and even the cows ran to the banks of the river. As they all danced around Lord Krishna, a demon named Shankachuda happened to be passing by. He was charmed by the beauty of gopis and quietly carried some of them away. But the gopis cried out, "Krishna, save us! This demon is taking us away." Immediately, Lord Krishna and Balrama started chasing Shankachuda. The demon had heard about Lord Krishna. Frightened, he left the gopis and fled for his life. In no time, Krishna overtook him and gave him a blow on his head. Shankachuda died on the spot. Lord Krishna took out a jewel crest from his chest and presented it to Balrama to wear. The gopis thanked Lord Krishna for saving their lives. One day, Lord Krishna was in the meadows with his cowherd friends and their calves. They were playing pranks on one another, and the cows slipped away into the forest. "Where are our calves?" one of the cowherds suddenly exclaimed. Lord Krishna said, "Dear friends, do not worry. I will go and look for the cows." While he was searching for the cows, Brahma, the god of creation, decided to play a trick on them. He put the cowherds into a deep sleep and transported them along with the calves into a cave. When Lord Krishna returned, he realized at once what had happened. So, he created the cowherds and the cows from his multiple selves and took them home. Brahma went to Vrindavan gleefully to see the result of his trick, and he was amazed to see the cowherds and the cows with the Lord Krishna. When Lord Krishna revealed what he had done, Brahma started to see multiple figures of him instead of the cows and the cowherds.
Good morning, friends. Today we will listen the story of Aghasura. Agha was a mighty demon. Even the denizens of heaven were afraid of him. Lord Krishna had destroyed Bakasura and Putana. Aghasura was their younger brother and he was thirsting for revenge. So, Kansa fueled the fire of revenge further by encouraging Aghasura to kill Krishna. "Krishna, kill your sister Putana in the most pitiless manner. Do you know how much pain she must have suffered?" said Kansa. Aghasura became enraged to hear this. "And do not forget your brother Bakasura, who attacked Lord Krishna in the form of a crane. Krishna destroyed him as well," evil Kansa added. By now, the grieving demon could not control his anger. "I swear to revenge the death of my brother and sister," Aghasura vowed. Evil Kansa smiled. His purpose had been served. Aghasura would now aim for revenge. Kansa hoped the demon would succeed in killing Krishna. Agha, the demon, planned to kill Lord Krishna, so he learned a black magic spell called Mahima Siddhi for changing forms. Having attained Mahima Siddhi, Aghasura changed himself into a massive 8-mile long serpent with a mouth as large as mountain-sized cave. Then he lay in the wait for the cowherds on their usual route. When the cowherds returned from another excursion led by Lord Krishna, they saw the mighty serpent and stopped. Aghasura lay with his mouth open on their path, so that they might not escape him. What could that be? Is it a cave? Asked a cowherd even as the others stared. After some discussion, the cowherds entered the serpent's mouth. They knew that if they faced any problems, Lord Krishna would save them. Lord Krishna knew that the mighty serpent was a demon. However, as he stood thinking, he saw his friends walking into the mouth of the serpent. Lord Krishna planned to defeat evil Aghasura, who had assumed the shape of a serpent and swallowed the cowherds. Evil Aghasura wants to kill me as well, so I think I shall walk into his mouth and destroy him instead, decided Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna walked into Aghasura's mouth. Seeing this, the gods cried in despair, thinking that Lord Krishna was now finished. The demons cheered happily as they thought that Aghasura had now won. Just then, Lord Krishna began to suffocate Aghasura from within his throat. Aghasura began to feel dazed. He was unable to breathe and soon he suffocated to death. After the demon had died, Lord Krishna and the cowherds came out of the demon's mouth unharmed. Krishna, we knew that you would save us, said the cowherds joyfully. Lord Krishna was happy to see that the cowherds were safe. When demon Agha was killed by Lord Krishna, his soul underwent a transformation. This younger brother of Bakasura and Putana, who had wanted to kill the cowherds as well as Lord Krishna, met with his end while he was still inside the demon's body. Due to this reason, the evil soul of Aghasura was purified. As the demigods and the gods watched, the soul changed into a dazzling light and submitted to Lord Krishna. The light bowed before the Lord in reverence. Such is God Krishna's divine radiance that even the evil demon wants to submit to him, exclaimed the gods as they cheered his latest victory. They showered flower petals on Lord Krishna and worshipped him even as the denizens of the heavens danced in joy. They recited Vedic religious hymns. Thus, with the death of his evil demon, both heaven and earth rejoiced with happiness and joy. Lord Brahma, the god of creation, witnessed how Lord Krishna had killed Aghasura effortlessly. Lord Krishna's triumph was praised by all. Lord Brahma said to Indra, "Look at the power of the Lord in his 8th incarnation. Not only has he destroyed an evil demon who was tormenting thousands of people and causing bloodshed and mayhem on earth, he has also shown mercy. The soul of the evil demon was purified because Lord Krishna himself destroyed the monster. All of the heavens watched as the evil demon's soul submitted to the glory of Lord Krishna. The people of Vrindavan were also happy. When our Lord Krishna can kill such evil demons at such a tender age, imagine his glory when he becomes of age. They all said, the end of evil Kansa was now certain, for all his demons had failed to kill Lord Krishna.
Hello friends, have a wonderful morning. Today you will listen story of Vyomasura, Nanda, Radha and the monster Arishta. However, Kansa did not give up on his evil plans to kill Lord Krishna. He sent Vyomasura, the son of the demon Shiv, Mayasura, for destroying Lord Krishna. Vyomasura changed himself into a cowherd and joined Lord Krishna's group that was playing hide and seek. He carried some of the cowherds from their hiding places to a cave. Now Krishna will come in search of his friends. I must surprise him and destroy him, plotted evil Vyomasura. As soon as he noticed that his friends were missing, Lord Krishna arrived at the cave. Vyomasura was waiting for him. I am the son of demon chief Mayasura himself, and I will tear you from limb to limb, threatened the evil demon. The demon changed into a massive mountain and tried to crush Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna handled him with a mighty blow and destroyed him. The cowherds cheered yet another victory of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna dealt with demons as well as gods. Once his father Nanda went to bath in a river Yamuna. There the water god kidnapped Nanda and took him to the underwater palace of Varun Deva. The palace was huge and all types of sea creatures dwelt there. Nanda was imprisoned within the palace. My father has not returned yet. I must see what has happened to him, thought Lord Krishna. He arrived at the banks of river Yamuna and divined what had happened. When Lord Krishna arrived at Varun Deva's palace, his divine light blinded all the sea creatures. Varuna Deva immediately touched his feet and said, Lord Krishna, I am so happy to receive this honor. Those who touch your feet receive freedom from the cycle of birth and death, that is moksha. Varun Deva was also apologized for his evil ways and for the water god who had abducted Nanda. Lord Krishna blessed Varun Deva and returned to Vrindavan with Nanda. As Radha and Krishna grew up, they became very close friends. However, once Radha grew jealous that Lord Krishna talked to a gopi named Sridhama. Lord Krishna was sitting with his friend Sridhama when Radha rushed towards them. Seeing her anger, Sridhama exclaimed, Radha, don't insult my lord, or I will curse you. Hearing this, Radha grew angrier and hatedly said, I curse you, Sridhama. You shall be born in a poor family in your next life and face many hardships. Angered beyond reason, Sridama said, Radha, I curse you to 100 years of separation from my lord. Hearing this, Radha trembled and started crying. Even as Lord Krishna consoled Radha, his heart grew heavy with grief at her suffering. Also, he knew that both the curses would come true, and he felt deep pain for both Radha and Sridama, whom he loved dearly. Sometime later, Kansa again sent an evil demon, Arista, to Vrindavan to kill Lord Krishna. I will kill you, Krishna. Consider me your deliverer. The vile bull demon thought as he entered Vrindavan. Arista's eyes glowed with an angry red light, and his mighty hooves thudded on the floor as he charged ahead. The demon was so large that he seemed to block out the sun. It was impossible to climb on him because of his huge size. He moved with such a speed that he could be in two different places in no time at all. Such negative energy came from him that all the birds and the animals fell silent as they saw the evil demon. Arista moved his massive head as he combed through the crowds looking for Lord Krishna. The people of Vrindavan saw the bull demon and shouted in fear. A mighty evil demon with his ugly, fiendish ways is attacking us. Help us, Lord Krishna! As Arista looked around for Lord Krishna, he came and stood a little away from him. Arista glared at Lord Krishna. So you have shown yourself at last, taunted the evil demon. I am so powerful that I have killed not only calves but also mighty sages. Do you think you are a match for me? Lord Krishna smiled calmly as he saw the bull shaped demon ready to attack. Just then, Lord Krishna clapped his hands. Hearing this, the bull demon became angry and ran with horns lowered towards Lord Krishna. As the bull demon neared him, Lord Krishna tore one of his horns and slashed Arista with it. Then Lord Krishna hit Arista with a deathly blow. The bull demon lay dead at Lord Krishna's feet. The people of Vrindavan cheered loudly when they saw this. Their joy knew no bounds as they worshipped and praised Lord Krishna.
Hello friends, have a lovely morning. Today you will listen the story about Narada, Chanura and Mustika, Keshi and the gopis. Narada, the mischievous celestial sage, had been watching the events at Vrindavan with interest for some time now. He was a troublemaker who would often spread stories and tell tall tales to create problems where there was none. How I would love to tease Kansa with the latest exploits of Lord Krishna. If I do so, it will surely enrage evil Kansa and lead to some trouble, thought Narada gleefully. Alak Niranjan! Narada called out his greeting as he reached Kansa's palace. He then narrated Lord Krishna's exploits before evil Kansa. Narada, you have opened my eyes. Krishna and Balrama are more dangerous than I had thought. I must kill both of them before they become adults, said Kansa. The evil demon ruler started plotting how to kill Lord Krishna and Balrama. He knew that he must destroy them or lose his life. After so many warnings from all, Kansa's nerves were frayed as he feared his end at the hands of Lord Krishna. Fueled by Narada's instigation, Kansa got worried day and night. How can I destroy Krishna and Balrama? One day, he finally thought of a plan. Guards, summon the strong wrestlers Chanura and Mustika before me, thundered evil Kansa as he sat on his throne. When the two wrestlers arrived, they fell at his feet to greet him. Both the wrestlers were so tall that even the most massive pillars of the palace looked dwarf like next to them. Their arms were so strong and sinewy that rocks could be crushed into fine powder by them. How many we serve you, King Kansa? Queried the two wrestlers in unison. Kill Krishna and Balrama in a wrestling match, ordered evil Kansa. He then explained the plan to them. The two wrestlers prepared to kill Lord Krishna and Balrama. They were unaware that they were about to meet with their own end instead. Kansa arranged for a yajna, that is, fire ceremony, where offerings would be made to the fire god. On this occasion, he planned to hold the wrestling match between Krishna and Balrama and the two wrestlers. Kansa sent his associate Akrura to bring Krishna and Balrama to Mathura. This will not be enough to destroy them. I must make other plans, thought evil Kansa. So he sent an Asura demon called Keshi to destroy the two brothers in Vrindavan itself. Alongside, he planned to release a huge elephant called Kubalaya Pida in the arena. If one plan does not succeed, another will. Now I have nothing to fear about. If Keshi does not manage to kill them, surely Chanura and Mustika will. Failing that, elephant Kubalaya Pida will kill them. I am safe. Foolish Kansa did not know that his end was near. When the horse-shaped demon Keshi arrived at Vrindavan to kill Lord Krishna, all the cowherds shivered in fright. He ripped the earth with his hooves and even attacked the Surya, sun, and the Chandrama, that is moon. Do not fear, as I am here, said Lord Krishna. Keshi heard this and stormed fitfully, I will kill you and punish the people of Vrindavan. His massive hoofs thudded the ground as he charged ahead in utter rage. Lord Krishna ripped Keshi into two and destroyed him, because of which he is also known as a Keshava. Akrura arrived soon after and informed Krishna and Balrama that they had been invited to Mathura. Nanda, Yashoda, and the gopis and the cowherds wept with grief as they bade Lord Krishna goodbye. Radha too cried out in pain at the parting.
Balarama and Lord Krishna also felt deep grief as they climbed into the chariot with Akrura and left for Mathura. As the chariot carrying Lord Krishna and Balarama departed from Vrindavan, the gopis followed it. All of Vrindavan mourned Lord Krishna's departure, but the gopis' grief was unbearable. Some of them felt so miserable that they cried out, "We prefer death to life without him. How could Lord Krishna leave us and go to Mathura?" cried a gopi. Another lamented, "Evil demon King Kansa is so vile. If What if he destroys our beloved Lord Krishna?" Life came to a standstill in Vrindavan. The cowherds too felt the pain of separation. Besides the people, even the birds and the animals of Vrindavan fell into a mournful silence, for they grieved the separation from Lord Krishna. Among them all, Radha's sorrow was the deepest, for she was Lord Krishna's most beloved friend and mate. Meanwhile, Lord Krishna headed to Mathura with a firm resolve to destroy Kansa. Hello friends, wonderful morning. Today's stories are about Akrura, Kubja, Chanura and Mustika, Kansa. Akrura drove the chariot towards Mathura as fast as he could. However, midway, he stopped the chariot at the banks of river Yamuna to refresh himself. While he was taking a bath, Akrura saw both Balrama and Krishna standing in the water. Confused, Akrura looked back at the chariot and saw that the two boys were sitting in the chariot. When he dived into the water, he saw another wonderful vision. Akrura saw a beautiful vision of Krishna in the form of Lord Vishnu, sleeping on Sheshnag. After a few seconds, he curved body of Sheshnag turned into the stunning form of Balrama. Akrura was awestruck and overwhelmed with devotion. "What I have heard is true. Lord Vishnu and Sheshnag were born on earth as the sons of Vasudeva," he said to himself as he joined his hands and prayed to Lord Vishnu. The vision disappeared and Akrura went back to his chariot, overjoyed with what he had seen. When the two brothers arrived in Mathura, Akrura went to the palace while Lord Krishna and Balrama roamed the city on foot. They met a garland seller who knew at once that they were divine. He worshipped them with flowers and Lord Krishna blessed them. Further on, the brothers met a young woman named Kubja. She was beautiful though she had a hump on her back. Her long hair and pretty eyes were marred by the hump. She was carrying sandalwood paste. "Whom is the paste for?" asked Lord Krishna. When Kubja told him it was for Kansa, he told her to anoint Balrama and himself with the paste instead. After she had done so, he removed the hump from her back. Kubja looked extremely beautiful now because her hump was gone.
She thanked him happily. Lord Krishna and Balrama proceeded to Kansa's palace. It had become dark when they reached it. Meanwhile, Kansa was performing the yajna in the arena in the palace. A bow was to be worshipped there. Lord Krishna and Balrama entered the arena, and Lord Krishna broke the bow in the challenge to evil Kansa. Angry Kansa thundered, "Kill him at once!" Chanura and Mustika heard him and attacked the brothers. At the same time, Kubalayapida, the mighty elephant, was also released into the arena. Lord Krishna and Balrama killed Kubalayapida first. They took the elephant's tusk and hurled it on the floor of the arena. All night, the two wrestlers fought the brothers, but they stood no chance against Lord Vishnu himself. Lord Krishna grabbed Chanura's body and spun it 100 times before dashing it to the ground and killing him. Balrama destroyed Mustika in a single blow. Kansa realized that even the most carefully laid evil plans would not be successful. Lord Krishna and Balrama now approached evil Kansa, the demon king, as he sat away from the arena in his palace. Kansa saw them and fearfully ordered his guards, "Tie both the brothers in iron chains and put them in the prison." The prophecy that Lord Krishna would kill the monstrous and ruthless demon king was about to come true. Before anyone could move the muscle, Lord Krishna jumped off the arena and caught hold of Kansa by the hair. Then he hurled Kansa, who fell senseless to the ground due to the impact. As everyone watched, awestruck, Kansa breathed his last at Lord Krishna's feet. Kansa's brother Sumali tried to kill Lord Krishna. Balrama destroyed Sumali in a trice. With this reign of Demon King Kansa came to an end in Mathura. All of Mathura rejoiced at the death of the Demon King. Lord Krishna met his parents Vasudeva and Devaki. Nanda and Yashoda also came to Mathura to join in the celebrations. After Lord Krishna had killed Kansa, he made his grandfather Ugrasena the king of Mathura. Then Lord Krishna and Balrama went through a sacred thread ceremony called Yajna Pavitra. Earlier, all students lived and learnt in Gurukul. So Lord Krishna and Balrama too left for the Gurukul of Sage Sandipani, who lived in Kashi. Lord Krishna and Balrama had killed many demons and earned universal fame. Even then, they followed their Guru's commands obediently and humbly. They went to the forest every day and brought firewood. They helped Guru Mata, Sage Sandipani's wife, cook food in the ashram. Sage Sandipani was pleased with their humanity, modesty, and intelligence. Lord Krishna and Balrama read spiritual Vedas like Rug, Yajur, Sam, Atharva, the Upanishads, and worldly knowledge like Kalpa,
Jyotisha or astrology, and Vakrana or grammar. They also become proficient in archery, politics, and 64 arts in 64 days. They memorize everything so fast, thought said Sandipani, astonished at their fast progress and development. Good morning, friends. Today's stories are about Sudama, said Sandipani, and Jarasandha. Sudama, the son of a poor Brahmin, studied in Sage Sandipani's Gurukul along with Lord Krishna and Balrama. Over time, Lord Krishna and Sudama became inseparable friends. One day, Guru Mata, wife of Sage Sandipani, asked Lord Krishna and Sudama to bring some wood from the forest. While they were collecting wood, dark clouds spread in the sky and it started raining heavily. Lord Krishna and Sudama took shelter on the branches of a huge tree, but it did not stop raining for a every long time. Sudama, I am feeling very hungry, Krishna complained, but Sudama, who was on the branch above him, did not answer, for he was busy eating the puffed rice that Guru Mata had packed for them both. When Krishna climbed up the branch and caught Sudama eating red handed, he said jokingly, Sudama, you owe me this puffed rice. You will give it to me later. Soon it stopped raining and they both went back, forgetting the incident. In earlier days, there was a practice called Guru Dakshina. After completing their education, students would make a token offering of gratitude to their Guru. This offering was called Guru Dakshina. When their education was over, Lord Krishna and Balrama went to sage Sandipani. Standing humbly with bowed heads, they asked, Gurudev, it is time for us to return home. Kindly tell us what we may offer you as Guru Dakshina. Sage Sandipani said, Krishna and Balrama, it was my good fortune to be a guru to the ideal students like you. You are all knowing and all powerful. Your divine attributes are known the world over. By associating with you, all my material desires have vanished. But I have a longing for my son who died many years ago. He had been playing on the beach and somehow he was drowned. I want you to reassure him and bring him back to me. Thus, Lord Krishna and Balrama set out to fulfill their Guru's desire. As per said Sandipani's request, Lord Krishna and Balrama went to bring his son back. They went to the ocean shores of Prabhasa and ordered the god of the ocean to give back said Sandipani's son. The ocean replied, The boy is not in my grip. He was taken away by demon Shankha. He has a holy conch shell named Panchajanya and he lives inside it. Lord Krishna entered the ocean and killed Shankhasur, but he did not find the boy there. So he took the conch shell and went to Yamapura, the kingdom of Yamaraja. When Krishna blew the conch, Yamaraja welcomed him. When he ordered the boy's return, Yamaraja returned
said Sandipani's son. Once he was brought back to life, Krishna and Balrama handed the boy over to their guru Sandipani. From that day onwards, Lord Krishna carried the conch shell with him. He even blew conch shell Panchajanya along with Arjuna's conch shell Devadatta, signaling the start of the war of the Mahabharata. Jarasandha was a very powerful demon. He defeated many kings and made them promise their allegiance to him, making him the supreme emperor. He had given both his daughters in marriage to King Kansa of Mathura. After Lord Krishna had killed Kansa, his two wives went back to their father Jarasandha and lied, "Father, Krishna killed Kansa by unfair means, and we will not be satisfied until the death of our husband is avenged." So, Jarasandha vowed to destroy Krishna to avenge his son in law's death. He raised a huge army of demons from all over the world to help him conquer Mathura. Jarasandha decided to teach Krishna and his clan Yadavas a lesson. Since the Yadavas lived in and around Mathura, he decided to battle with them and destroy the race forever. Jarasandha then repeatedly attacked Mathura, and each time he caused massive death and destruction. But Krishna and Balrama killed everyone except Jarasandha. Jarasandha attacked Mathura 17 times with his demon army. Lord Krishna killed his entire army every time but avoided killing Jarasandha. Lord Krishna said, "Jarasandha is such an influential demon that he is bringing demons right to Mathura instead of me having to travel all over the world to kill them." The 17 attacks that Jarasandha led on Mathura had drained the energy of the Yadavas and stunted the growth of the city. The economy had come down and the wars had emptied the treasury. One day, Krishna received disturbing news that Jarasandha had forged an alliance with several other kings to destroy the Yadava clan forever. Balrama said, "Krishna, Jarasandha is a powerful enemy with a huge army, and the Yadavas have barely managed to withstand his attacks, with even the likes of you and me on their side." Jarasandha's alliance had only one aim: destroy Mathura and the Yadava clan.
Hello friends, today's stories are about Jarasandha, city of Dwarka and Kalyavana. Jarasandha had entered into an armed alliance with Emperor Damghosha of Chedi, Dantavakra of Karusa, Rukmi of Vidarbha, and the brothers Vinda and Anuvinda of Avanti. When the alliance began its march towards Mathura, the Yadavas were helpless. The alliance decided to attack Mathura from several fronts simultaneously. Jarasandha then sent a message to the Yadavas: "Your clan would be spared if you handed over the heads of Krishna and Balrama to me." The Yadavas refused and readied themselves for a war. Lord Krishna was the only person who repeatedly cautioned his clansmen against the war. He then hit upon the idea of shifting the capital from Mathura to Dwarka. Krishna placed the suggestion before his grandfather King Ugrasena. He said, Krishna, if you run away from the battlefield, you will forever be known as a Ranchod or the one who has run away from the battlefield. Lord Krishna smiled at this. Lord Krishna did not worry about being called a Ranchod. He said to his grandfather, I already have many names and one more does not make any difference. I am willing to sacrifice my reputation for saving my people and their lives. But Balrama wanted to fight Jarasandha. Lord Krishna gently reminded him, war is not the way to solve all the problems. The confederacy of kings against Mathura is so great that it would lead to the death of countless people. He added, why should my people suffer because of me? The best solution would be to leave the city and go to a new place where it would be difficult for Jarasandha to attack us. He reminded Balrama that Jarasandha had already attacked Mathura 17 times and he would not rest till he succeeded in his mission of finishing the Yadava clan. Everyone reluctantly accepted Lord Krishna's suggestion. King Ugrasena wondered how a new city could be built in such a short span of time. When the citizens of Mathura were sleeping, Lord Krishna called for Vishwakarma, the architect of demigods, and told him to build the beautiful city of Dwarka within the sea. The architect showed Krishna and King Ugrasena the plan of the new city, saying, my lord, the city will be built only if Samudradeva, the god of the sea, gives us some land. Thus, Lord Krishna worshipped Samudradeva, who was pleased and gave them land. Soon Vishwakarma built Dwaraka, the city in gold. Lord Krishna said to Balarama, this city with a fortified fort surrounded by the ocean will protect my people while we deal with the demons. Then Lord Krishna transported everyone to Dwaraka. When they woke up in the morning, they were living in a beautiful city in the middle of the ocean. A demon king, Kalyavana, wanted to avenge his father Garga Muni's insult and destroy the Yadava clan. So he joined hands with Jarasandha to destroy Mathura. They planned to attack from the east and the west simultaneously. However, when they reached Mathura, an empty city awaited them. An enraged Jarasandha destroyed Mathura and called Krishna a Ranchod. Ran meaning war and Chod meaning run away. Just then, Lord Krishna came to meet Kalyavana in his Vishnu form. When Kalyavana saw Lord Krishna, he remembered the description narrated by the Narada. He had said, Lord Krishna is like the rising moon and ever beautiful to look at. He is dark in complexion, clad in yellow silk garments with the Shrivasta mark on his bosom and Kostubha Mani sparkling in the neck. He has 4 arms, lotus-like eyes, dazzling alligator-shaped earrings, and a charming smile on his face. Immediately, Kalyavana started chasing Lord Krishna, who quickly ran away towards a distant mountain cave. King Kalyavana had performed severe penances and obtained a boon from Lord Shiva that he could not be killed by any Yadava. Lord Krishna knew that he could not kill Kalyavana because of Lord Shiva's boon and decided to kill him through trickery. When Kallavana came after him, he pretended fear and ran away from the battlefield. But Kallavana followed him like a shadow. Why are you running away, you coward? Shouted Kallavana. But Lord Krishna did not stop, running on and on. Krishna led Kallavana into a cave where a king named Muchkunda was sleeping soundly. As soon as Krishna went near him, he took off his yellow silk garment and laid it over the sleeping king. This coward is now hiding in the cave, thought Kallavana, and he came inside the cave. He couldn't believe his eyes when he saw Krishna sleeping inside.
Hello friends. Today we will listen the story of Muchkunda and Rukmini. Kallavana followed Lord Krishna to the cave in the mountain and saw a man lying down asleep clad with the yellow silk garment. Kallavana thought that coward Krishna is avoiding a fight by sleeping. He kicked the sleeping man, assuming him to be Lord Krishna. This man was King Muchkunda, who had been sleeping there for a long time. King Muchkunda ruled the earth during the Krita Yuga and had helped the gods in the battle against demons. Then Kartik, son of Lord Shiva, took over as the general of the army of the gods. King Muchkunda had not slept for many years as he often fought against the demons to protect the gods in the heaven. He was very tired, but the earth had changed so much during the period. Thousands of years had elapsed, and there was no one on earth that King Muchkunda could relate to. King Muchkunda wanted to attain moksha for the services he offered to the gods. The gods said, "We want to help you, but we are incapable of granting moksha as it could only be granted by Lord Vishnu." So King Muchkunda asked the gods to grant him the boon of sleep, and whoever disturbed his sleep should be instantly reduced to ashes. The gods granted Muchkunda the boon and showed him a cave where he could rest. So King Muchkunda slept in the cave on the earth through Satyuga, Treta Yuga, and Dwapar Yuga. When Kallavana kicked Muchkunda, he opened his eyes and rays of fire emanated from his eyes. At once, Kallavana turned into ashes. King Muchkunda, who was now fully awake, was blessed with the rare sighting as Lord Krishna appeared before the king in the form of Vishnu. The king was granted moksha for his devotion. Thus, Lord Krishna's plan of destroying another demon succeeded. Bhishmaka, the king of Vidarbha, had two children, Prince Rukmi and the Princess Rukmini. He had heard many stories of Lord Krishna's valor and secretly wished him to be his son-in-law. Bhishmaka knew that it might not be possible as Kansa's father-in-law Jarasandha was their overlord and Lord Krishna was his sworn enemy. In fact, Prince Rukmi was a friend of Kansa and hated Krishna since Kansa's death. He wanted his younger sister Rukmini to marry Shishupal. the crown prince of Chedi, who also was favored by Jarasandha. Bhishmaka had to agree with Rukmi and decided to marry his daughter to Shishupal. But Princess Rukmini had heard stories of Lord Krishna's valor since her childhood, and she had her heart set on marrying Lord Krishna. When she learned that her brother had chosen Shishupal for her, she resolved with determination, I will marry only Lord Krishna or give up my life. But Rukmi refused to get his sister married to Krishna. Princess Rukmini did not want to marry Shishupal, the groom chosen by her brother Rukmi. She was in love with Lord Krishna, so she sent her trusted friend Sunanda to Lord Krishna with a note. The note said, My lord, I already consider you my husband. If you won't marry me, I will surely give up my life. Please do come and take me away. Rukmini wrote that on the day of the wedding, she would go to the temple of goddess Parvati, and if he desired so, that was the right time to kidnap her. She also begged him to spare the lives of her family while kidnapping her. Thus, Sunanda went to Dwarka, Lord Krishna's new fortress home, with the note. Lord Krishna had heard a lot about Rukmini's beauty too. He longed to marry her but wasn't sure if he should approach her family as they owed their allegiance to Jarasandha. Upon receiving a message from Rukmini, Lord Krishna vowed to kidnap her, but Jarasandha knew that Krishna and Rukmini wished to marry each other, so he brought his men to Vidarbha as a precaution. Lord Krishna went to Vidarbha first and Balrama followed with the army. On the wedding day, when Rukmini was leaving the temple, she searched for Krishna in the crowd but did not see him. As she was living in her chariot, she felt someone held her from behind. It was Lord Krishna. I have come for you, my love, he said as he lifted her into the chariot and sped away. Jarasandha's men followed Lord Krishna but were defeated by Balrama's army. Prince Rukmi tried to stop Lord Krishna but could not. Lord Krishna spared Rukmi's life but cut half the hair on his head and half the mustache on his face and then let him go. Then Lord Krishna returned to Dwarka with Rukmini and made her his bride.